But right now, let's go to Rafe Heydel-Mankoo, historian, broadcaster, senior fellow at the New Culture Forum. And I'll put it to you, Rafe, a very good afternoon to you, that, you know, I don't think Britain has fallen out of love with the monarchy, and I think these kinds of events always show you that there's a lot more love for the monarchy than you read on a daily basis in The Guardian.
Yeah, you couldn't have put it better, Mike. The monarchy still got huge support in this country, and you're going to see that on Saturday when hundreds of thousands of people descend upon Westminster Abbey and Buckingham Palace to see this great pageant. Contrast that with the motley crew of the miserable folk from Republic, the Anti-Monarchist Anoraks, who are always present at these events and looking very glum, and the difference in size between those tells you all that you need to know. You know, Ipsos Mori for the last 30 years has polled the British nation on their support for the monarchy, and it's been their single most constant answer that they've ever had in history. And there have been some low points in the 90s, some high points around the Golden and Diamond Jubilees, but it's never really varied from between 65 to 75%. And we're still at that level now, same sort of level it was in the 90s as well. So the monarchy goes from, you know, it ebbs and flows, but it never really loses the support of the vast majority of this nation. And interestingly, Lord Ashcroft recently did a poll on the support for the monarchy in Britain, the biggest poll done since the funeral of the Queen, and 2/3 of Republicans admitted that it works very well. Only 1/3 of them thought that there will be any practical benefits to it coming. The other 2/3 simply didn't like the idea of a hereditary monarchy, despite the fact that around the world, monarchies are actually the world's most advanced, most progressive, most democratic and most egalitarian countries.
Yes.
Belgium, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Canada, Australia, Britain. None of these countries are living in the past or old-fashioned. These are cutting-edge countries, and actually they're the most socially progressive too.
Absolutely right. It's interesting as well that some countries in the Commonwealth and countries which are currently under the head of state rule with the royal family are reconsidering their position and their relationship with the United Kingdom and with the royal family as well. More and more of them seem to be keen to sort of break away a little bit.
Yeah, well, the unfortunate element here, I think, is that the, let's say, critical race theory and the current orthodoxy that our elites seem to go by has affected a lot of the Caribbean states, particularly being so the proximity to America. They now see monarchy as being at the apex of patriarchy and white privilege and the stain of slavery, and no one is actually out there making the case, saying that, you know, King George III wrote an essay condemning slavery. It was the Royal Navy that stopped the slave trade. No one ever makes any of those arguments. You know, of all wherever you go in the world, it's former British colonies that are actually the most developed, the most stable, the most democratic, and that's because of their inheritance from Britain and the stability that that monarchy brings. So that's one of the disadvantages there. In terms of Canada and Australia, it's mass migration that also has a big issue. Huge influx of people who don't have any connection to the monarchy. Those countries used to be primarily populated by people from the British Isles. And there's a natural shift there where people just don't understand the monarchy because they're not taught about it.
No, quite. And do you think it's a bit of a fashion statement then, more than anything else, and that it might, with time, depending on how soon these things happen, it might sort of just go away and people might go, actually, are you sure we want to do this?
Yeah, well, actually, if you look at the actual results of Lord Ashcroft's poll, it shows that the traditional British population hasn't wavered at all in its support for the monarchy. There are two changes. One is the youth of today have never been more Republican than at any point in history, and as we know full well, the youth of today are not becoming more conservative or more right-wing as they grow older for various reasons, and it's hardly to be surprised, you know, when fewer than 10% of teachers today vote for conservative or centre-right parties, and there's an increasingly radical politics that teachers seem to be displaying. It's no coincidence that their students are reflecting perhaps more Republican views. And also what Lord Ashcroft's poll shows is that whilst the overwhelming majority of white Britons support the monarchy, Asians favour a republic by a slight majority, but black British support a republic by quite a large number. And so it's migration and a failure to teach our children that are actually the two driving forces that are making the traditional polls a little bit out of kilter.
Yes. And I suppose you might take it all back down the road of the new elite, the new liberal elite that people like Matt Goodwin talk about, and the people who not only populate the schools and universities of this country, but who populate high levels in the civil service, who populate high political positions, who populate all sorts of kind of, you know, what you might call lefty establishment areas, which control an awful lot of what we do.
Yeah, as with so many other aspects of our life and arguments, you know, be it, you know, Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion to Brexit and so forth, it is the true privileged elite of this country, the ones who hold the reins of power, unlike the monarch who simply reigns. That have these let's say untraditional views, and a lot of it comes down to this failure of people with big egos to think that they should bow to another person, when actually deference is about respecting the office and the institution. It's not Charles Windsor that we're showing deference to, it's the crown, it's the life force of the state from which all authority and legitimacy emanates. You know, and if people with big egos like Winston Churchill had no problem showing deference to the monarch, I don't see what our politicians have to do.
No, exactly right. Got a good question here from Matt, who says, can any anti-royalists explain how their, mine or anyone's lives will be improved by getting rid of the royal family? And that's one of the things they don't do. They just say, oh, we don't need them, or they cost too much, but they don't actually say how much better life would be without them, because I don't think it would be.
Well, as I've just said, you know, around the world, monarchies are the most progressive and advanced. Every year, the United Nations lists its Human Development Index of the world's best countries, and every year, monarchies dominate the top list of that. It's an undeniable fact that, you know, monarchies don't in any way detract from the ability of a society to be prosperous and to advance. And actually, you know, we should celebrate the fact that we are the world's oldest continuous democracy, and that's because of the stability of our institutions, and that stability comes from the monarchy. And you know, we've seen in recent months the turmoil in politics when we had 3 prime ministers in the space of a few weeks. I'm sure we don't want to go down that path.
But you know, we survived it, as we always do, and nothing fell off the country.